got Anna, Emma, Ichi, Ono. I called the fire, the flame, and the sacred waters, the celestial, heavenly waters, the fresh waters, the living waters, the salt waters, the four corners of the earth, and draw all four angles and dimensions. The sacred mind. Many little birds on a limb of a large tree. The rune is doors. Power chakra is the Swadhisthana chakra or the sexual chakra. And it will be, or sacral chakra. It will be projected from 30 degrees to 60 degrees from the southern and northern direction on both sides. From south and north on both sides. The gender polarity is masculine. The house is the fifth. The quadrant is fixed. Direction is south. The planet is soul. The alchemical transmutation is calcination. The moon phase is full moon. The season is summer. Tetragrammaton is Ya, He, Bo, He. Fire, air, earth, water. Fire, earth, air on water. The frequency is 4.89. The wavelength is 613, and the energy is 2.0226 joules. The color is like a red, dark red. The world is Astalut. The element is fire. The place is Father in Pakistan. The Hebrew letter is Yod, as in fire, and the Nokian tablet is red. The body part is the heart valve. Okay, men doing gymnastics is the mantra and vision. Physical material existence in a sturdy body in time and space is the greatest agony and the greatest ecstasy that could ever be. It is agony in that you are so weighed down by the gravity of things, sorely troubled, heavily impacted, just about immobilized. It is ecstasy in that you can do so much with it. And when you mobilize yourself to take hold of the body and wield it as an instrument and vessel, the physical turns into a masterpiece, a wonder, a delight unsurpassed. You experience the heights and depths of ambivalence toward incarnation and embodiment, feeling both repelled and attracted by the core drama of life in this earth. When you feel good, everything flows with promise. When your life force ebbs and becomes stagnant, the world is saturated with abysmal dread. Learn to harness embodied selfhood into something more constant and satisfying. Even with repeated bouts of coming up against resistance and habit dying hard, rigidity versus fluency, you have a created dilemma with so much growth, outlasting your inner enemies and becoming earthworthy in the physical, triumphantly and with lasting imprint. And when I picked this prayer or whatever today, I just do like bibliomancy and I just grab something. I just go into a book and I grab something and pull it out. So that's what this is. And it's the violet transmuting flame, the violet flame. The conscious ascension into the light is the ultimate goal of every human being, and that for this achievement, mastery and sublimation of all the energies that have been drawn forth by the individual in both the past and the present is an indispensable requirement. To accomplish this in the past, for the average individual, was so beset with difficulties that scarcely one member of the entire human race in each year could possibly have achieved it. The advent of the seventh ray, with its many dispensations granted to its Chohan, Saint Germaine, by the cosmic law, has quite changed this condition, and today, through the use of the merciful activities of the violet transmuting flame, literally thousands of ascensions are taking place each year. It is true that many of them are consummated in inner spheres after the individual's demise, but this does not alter the fact that the errors that held the individual in doldrum, which means slavery, and in constant re-embodiment had transmuted into the light. Until a short time ago, the knowledge of the sacred fire was known and taught only in the retreats of ascended masters throughout the world. But because of the shortness of time in which certain things must be accomplished, it has been brought into the outer world where anyone can know it, use it, and experience the freedom which it brings. The year 1954 was the beginning of the era of freedom for the earth. It was a time in history of the planet in which freedom is to take the eternal dominion here. This means that the energy embodying mankind and in the atmosphere, which has been charged with impurity, discord, and viciousness, will be transmuted by the violet fire. And when this is done, man will be free again to receive direction from his God presence and the ascended host of light and start going faster to his ultimate goal, the ascension. Primarily, the violet transmuting flame, though as a unit, may and does act independently. It is part and parcel of the cosmic sacred power, which is God's pure energy. To manifest itself should be invoked through a decree from one's own Christ self, or through any member of the spiritual hierarchy or cosmic being that has particularly dedicated himself or herself to the special service. Usually these beings belong to the seventh ray. Being of divine origin, this flame is fourth dimensional activity. It is omnipresent and it is found everywhere in the universe. When it is called into action by invocation and starts manifesting itself, it accelerates the vibratory action of the electrons, which make up the atoms which compose the four lower vehicles of the individual. As this acceleration takes place, the cells and atoms automatically throw off the effluvia consciously or unconsciously gathered through the ages. As they dislodge themselves, fall into the sacred fire, where purified, are returned to the individual with the required specific God quality. The time required for the transmutation depends upon the amount of the effluvia, the faith with which the effort is done, and the perseverance of the individual. But for the accomplishment of this, it is more than necessary that the feeling and mental world of the individual should fully cooperate in the performance. This performance is one of mercy, compassion, and forgiveness. And the violet fire dissolves the imperfect energy when it is accompanied with the actual feeling of forgiveness for your own mistakes and those of others. When we do not forgive, we should not ask or expect to be forgiven. Forgiveness is a great alchemy through which we can draw the blessing of the sacred fire, not only on us, but on all mankind. The I am presence of every individual, even most depraved, desires perfection for that individual. And when you call to the I am presence of all mankind and ask the violet flame to blaze through them and forgive their mistakes, it enables that I am presence to go into action. But perhaps it has been many centuries since it has been codified, and thus given permission to assist that last train. Pardon me, the train's gone through. Let me repeat that, okay? That's important. So, being of divine origin, this flame is a fourth dimension activity. It is omnipresent and found everywhere in this universe. When it is called into action by invocation and starts manifesting itself, it accelerates the vibratory action of the electrons, which make up the atoms, which compose the four lower vehicles of the individual. As this acceleration takes place, the cells and atoms automatically throw off the effluvia consciously or unconsciously gathered through the ages. As they dislodge themselves, fall into the sacred fire where, purified, are returned to the individual with the required specific God quality. The time required for the transmutation depends upon the amount of the effluvia, the faith with which the effort is done, and the perseverance of the individual. But for the accomplishment of this, it is more than necessary that the feeling and mental world of the individual should fully cooperate in the performance. This performance is one of mercy, compassion, and forgiveness, and the violet fire dissolves in perfect energy. When it is accompanied with the actual feeling of forgiveness for your own mistakes and those of others. When we do not forgive, we should not ask or expect to be forgiven. Forgiveness is the great alchemy through which we can draw the blessing of the sacred fire, not only on us, but on all mankind. The I am presence of every individual, even the most depraved, desires perfection for that individual. And when you call to the I am presence of all mankind and ask the violent flame to blaze through them and forgive their mistakes, it enables that I am presence to go into action, when perhaps it has been centuries since it has been called upon, and thus given permission to assist that life stream. Thus, we can see that for the service and benefits of the sacred fire, we must give and forgive. We must harmonize our world and our acts to conform to the laws of God. The activity, use, and substance of the sacred fire was brought into the world of form by beloved Elohim Arcturus and his twin ray Diana. This is in the paperwork, the violet flame. Believe whatever you want. You can call them whatever you want. But these are the ascended masters that I work with. A lot of people I work with. Who drew it from the sun of this system, which is soul, in the very beginning of the creation of Earth, making it available for use by beings serving this planet and its evolution. This is done through a process of stepping down this vibratory action and power so it can be available where it would be consciously called forth. So anybody can call upon the energy and the light of the sun of the whole universe, to purify them and bring them grace and healing. Okay, and that ultraviolet light is given off from the sun, as well as all of the other colors of the rainbow and the rays. So the cosmic beings under whose immediate direction the violet ray and flame come in order of importance are the Elohim of the seventh ray Arcturus with his divine complement Diana, the archangel of the seventh ray Zadkiel with his divine complement Amethyst, and Saint Germaine, Kohen of the seventh ray and his twin ray Portia, goddess of justice, opportunity, and service. Each one of them present one of the three evolutions of Earth: Arcturus, the elementals, Zadkiel, the angelic, Saint Germaine, the human. They are assisted by others who belong to the seventh ray and who, having dedicated their energies to the assisting of evolving humanity, have forsaken nirvana. One of those glorious beings is the goddess of mercy and forgiveness, Guanyin, whose evolution long ago has transcended her service of this planet, but refused the higher spheres so that she may help struggling humanity. The best means to attract the benevolent activity of the sacred fire is through the use of degrees and invocations. Through their constant use and their power, the individual is enabled to magnetize more light and thus expand his or her influence and his or her usefulness. When this is done collectively, it creates a pool of God beings who, for the lack of this pool, have not been able to serve humanity. Even Alpha and Omega, said Saint Germaine, Bridge, July 1955, page 11, themselves will not deny the magnetic pull of your heart. Remember, the sun itself, Helios and Vesta, any cosmic being, any angel, deva, or power of light must respond to the magnetic pull of your heart in invocation. The immediate effect of invocation, when directed to an ascended or cosmic being, comes through radiation. The power of radiation is the thing that does the mighty work in the decrees that go forth. It is the power of radiation in the mental and feeling world of mankind which touches the light within the heart. Through that mighty vibratory action, the whole attunement of the individual is set anew and enables the perfect work to go on. This activity is an activity of the fourth dimension, higher octaves, ARC editor or ARC editor, and by necessity difficult to set in words and more difficult to understand it unless one has personal experience of it. In the following, the cosmic being, Lady Master Mercedes, sister of Goddess Kuan Yin, who long ago had evolved beyond the confines of this planet and ascended to the heart of silence, coming back to Earth to assist in the present planetary crisis, gives us the following detailed teaching in regard to the violet transmuting flame. So, 1. Beloved Mercedes, what is the violet transmuting flame? And she responds, it is a sacred fire which is God's pure energy, qualified by divine beings to purify all discordant energy. 2. How can unascended beings avail themselves of this merciful blessing? And she responds, by the invocation of the divine beings who have dedicated themselves to this service. 3. Who are these divine beings? And she responds, those who serve on the seventh ray, Arcturus and Victoria, Zedekiel and Holy Amethyst, Ascended Master Saint Germaine and Portia, Kuan Yin and myself, and the Ascended Seraphic, Cherubic, and Angelic Legions, as well as the Cherubim, who serve with us. My beloved sister Kuan Yin and all of us have taken a voluntary vow to Helios and Vesta that we would never enter Nirvana until the earth and all her evolutions are completely free of distress. 4. How can these divine beings be invoked? And she responds, or he responds, by thinking about us and being able to accept our reality and capacity to render this service, by requesting us to give the required assistance. This will be easier of accomplishment for those who have served with us through the ages, as this strikes a respondent chord in their feelings. 5. Where is this violet transmuting flame? And the response is, it is a fourth dimensional activity which is omnipresent, actively directed by the divine being when invoked by the individual required assistance for himself or others. 6. What happens when the violet transmuting flame is called into action? 7. Where does the imperfection go? The response is, into the sacred fire which purifies it and returns it to the individual with the required specific God quality. 8. How long does it take for this transmutation? Yep. It is independent entirely upon the amount of effluvia, the acceptance of faith, and the perseverance of the individual. 9. What is required to sustain the state of purification? Rhythmic use of this blessed purified agent until perfection is manifested and sustained. 10. Can this be used for those not in embodiment? Yes. Until an individual has made the ascension through the use of free will, more imperfection can be created. Eternal vigilance over the creative faculties of thought and feeling will result in God's victorious achievement. 11. Why do divine beings serve on the seventh ray? Response: the seventh ray is particularly active under the 2,000-year cycle of the Ascended Master Saint Germaine, begun in 1954. Will you, my shellas, join with us in this glorious redemptive process? Many of us have come out of the great silence for this specific purpose. During the landing days, the violet flame of transmutation have been much magnetized and used, and there have been built magnificent temples for its invocation and radiation. But it was in Lemuria where the flames of sacred fire had reached their zenith in power, and this because human deterioration had not yet started. In the following, we give excerpts of an address given by the Mahak Chohan to the students at his retreat in Celion. And it says, you You have heard something about the beautiful temples of light which have been active on this planet in the past. Of course, there were foci of the flames and sacred fire upon the continent of Lemuria, where the ascended masters and the angelic hosts walked and talked freely with the priesthood there. This priesthood was made up of men and women who were highly spiritually evolved and who were able, through the developed powers of the sacred fire, which was anchored within their own hearts, to magnetize from the ascended master's realm certain God gifts for the blessing of the entire race. This magnetized radiation of perfection kept the Earth's atmosphere filled with the faith of the first ray, the illumination of the second, the love of the third, the purity of the fourth, the consecration to service and power to the concentrate of the fifth, the peace and desire to minister to mankind of the sixth, and the conscious realization of power of invocation and radiation of the seventh ray. All these God qualities were constantly charged into the atmosphere of our planet and were naturally breathed in by the people. If you could have seen with the inner eye, each of these temple centers was like a beautiful sun of light, its radiation constantly releasing from it, creating a charged atmosphere about it, just as the retreats active on Earth today create an atmosphere of God, perfection about them by the radiation of their own specific God virtue. Violet transmuting flame. In the following, we present excerpts of two discourses on the violet transmuting flame, one given by Neptune and the other Archangel Zedekiel. In both these discourses, practically every aspect of the sacred fire received due attention, plus other vital information cogent for a full understanding of this much important subject. Neptune's discourse. Now again, ask you to follow with me the picture and pattern of the electrons as they exist within your emotional bodies. This picture will help you much in your visualization and in your use of powers of the sacred fire to dislodge from around the electrons the discordant substance which you have drawn into your emotional vehicles by suction from the world without through indulgence in thoughts and feelings of inharmonious nature. Every feeling you entertain draws into itself the centripetal force of sympathy, the feelings of like nature, and flow in the atmosphere. And these, coupled with the discordant feelings that you generate yourselves in secret during your entire waking state, are drawn into force fields around the electrons that make up your bodies, resulting in the feelings of heaviness, depression, and discouragement in the emotional body and your outer body as well. As the individual uses the powers of sacred fire, such as the violet transmuting flame or the flame of cosmic purity, what takes place? The wedges of dark, heavy substance around the electrons are loosened and gradually thrown off. The vibratory action of the electron increases and it vibrates more rapidly in its orbit around the central core of each atom. Then, as you consciously call to the beings who represent the virtues of a perfect ascended master nature, asking them to charge into the force fields around the electrons those virtues, they will do it. Thus you build into your emotional body a storehouse of constructive energy which will act in the future as automatically as the destructive vibration have acted in the past. Now, let us look at this from a scientific standpoint. Early in your instruction, the beloved Saint Germaine gave you a set of daily exercises, which would be of tremendous assistance to you if you were to use them. Under the present pressure of daily living, this instruction seems to have receded into the backgrounds of your mind, but we present it to you here again. The beloved Saint Germaine suggested that before retiring at night, you stand in your room and, calling the violet transmuting flame into action up through and around you for at least 9 feet in every direction, you raise your hands to your I am present, asking it and Saint Germaine to qualify those hands with purifying power of the violet transmuting flame. Then, starting at the head, pass your hands down over your body to your feet, taking in as much of the body surface as you can. Reach with your hands. Now with the left hand, sweep over the right shoulder, arm to arm, and with the right hand to the left shoulder, the same treatment. You can do this on other people, you can do this on their pictures, you can do this just thinking about them, you can do this for yourself, animals, different things, okay? Repeat this activity and this entirely about 3 times, shaking the hand from the wrist once in a while, and this releases energies back into the earth, back into the sacred heart, back into the world, and it's returned back to where they need to go. It's transmuted and sent back to where it came from. Okay, so by which action of the substance thrown in the surrounding bottle of fire. Okay? And it doesn't burn you, it doesn't hurt you, it's love. It's purifying. What is the purpose of this exercise and what happens when it's performed? Saint Germaine has said that if you could see the inner side of what takes place in the first part of the exercise, it is though a close-fitting garment of black substance were being removed from the body with the hands. And you can do that with your breath too. As you breathe in each chakra, you should breathe and visualize different colors coming in at different points in your body. And as you release your breath, you're releasing that heavy dark cloud, and you do that over and over until you don't see the darkness anymore and you just see colors and light. And that is a process. Okay? So the second time you go over body, the garment is removed of this dark gray substance. The third time is a lighter gray color, and so on. Night after night, as you proceed with this exercise, and you can do this with crystals and amethyst wands and barbas and different things in your hands, and sage and candles, whatever you want to use, incense, and just your hands too. You proceed with the exercise, the astral substance gets lighter and lighter in color and texture until it's entirely removed from the body and actual purification takes place. So you're cleansed. This is a real substance with actual color, vibration, and feeling, and this is what consecration is. This is what I would consider a baptism by flame or light. You can do the purification process with the Holy Spirit and through all the different chakras and with the breath and a breath of light. Okay, so now for a lack of a cosmic screen, let us use the upper figure of the chart, the I am presence portrait, or as visual aid. So what would normally have been shown, I don't have this with me, is one of those color pyramid, emotional pyramid, and it has a different frequency, like 700 being one of the highest, 700 higher being purple, and the lower color being red, and these are different frequencies and different emotions. And so the color that we're working with for the day was at this base earth rooted red color, like life sludge or life energy, and with the earth. So that's like your grounded state, and then you have a higher vibratory state, and it's you got some light and energy coming from the sun to the earth, and you have light and energy coming from the core of the earth back up to the sun and through you, and through your Merkaba, through your vehicle, through your 4 lower and your upper higher vehicles, which is mentioned already. So you have this around you, and that's your astral protection and a sphere, a cone around you. And it's similar to how an electron of atom is, in visualization. Okay, so that's what we're talking about, like atoms and colors and different things in these charts. Okay, so I am going over the I am. Will you please consider this figure as a magnified electron? The beams of light pouring from it, forming the force field of the electron. That electron, you can think of like a Vitruvian Man, that was done by Michelangelo. That electron may be part of any one of the 4 lower bodies, emotional, mental, etheric, or physical. Each electron, of course, being composed of the natural element to which the body belongs, that is, air, earth, fire, or water. These electronic particles have, with their center, just like we have a nucleus in each atom, an intelligence which is a replica of your own individualized I am presence. So you come from source, you are source. Countless electrons form the atmosphere of the seven spheres, in each one of which these electrons ensoul the color, the quality, and the nature of the Kohen, the archangel, the Elohim, and the sphere in which they abide, and so on, upwards of the seventh to the first. And all of us have access to all these kingdoms and all these dimensions. All of us do. Now, the electrons which make up the atmosphere, the seven higher spheres, are intelligent, minute beings. They are the substance of which primal life itself is composed and actually make up the body of the Godhead himself. They also compose the substance which has been sent forth by him into the physical appearance world, and it is from them that every manifest expression is formed. In each sphere, these electrons are utilized by the immortal flame of God through any self-conscious being, master, angel, or man. When you chose individualization and your immortal flame descended into the fourth sphere where the Holy Christ self was fashioned, the elemental light, which is composed of countless of these tiny electrons, was magnetized by your own God identity and drawn around the flame within your heart by the builders of form, which is your sacred flame, your higher heart, your lower heart, and your inner heart. You have four eyes too. In each sphere, these electrons are utilized by the immortal flame of God through any self-conscious being, master, angel, or man. When you chose individualization and your immortal flame descended into the fourth sphere, the 4D plane, where the Holy Christ self is fashioned, elemental light, which is composed of countless of these tiny electrons, was magnified by your own God identity and drawn around the flame within your heart by the builders of form. Aloha. Aloha. Elohim. Because elemental life is obedient and always mirrors that which it sees, the intelligence within the electron immediately took on the pattern of your individualized thought form, i.e., Maltese cross, rose, star, dove, etc. These electrons then joined together and began to move around the central core of love, forming the atoms of your physical and inner bodies. The number of electrons making up each atom was determined by God, by the God intelligence, which created your vehicles for a specific purpose. The speed with which the electrons move in their orbits is determined by the feeling of the evolving being whose instruments these various vehicles were intended to be. Permit me to illustrate as follows. The ascended master body is made up of these beautiful electronic particles, all in constant motion, moving so rapidly that they cannot be seen by the human sight. Okay, there are molecules moving around, energy particles, light, sound, bumping up against together, creating, what we consider a solid, liquid form. The feelings of perfection within the ascended being make and keep the vibratory action of his atoms so rapid that they only emit light, which the outer consciousness of the majority of unascended mankind can neither see nor hear because of the speed at which they move or vibrate, as well as the transcendent quality of their radiation. So when you're talking about someone being in high vibe and being higher consciousness, we all have that ability, and we all have the ability to vibrate higher and not dwell on those things. But emotions happen, and we are not our emotions. They is energy that is in movement and flows through us, and we all have all ranges of emotions, and it's normal to have them in our human form. So we're going to have them. It's a human moment, but we are also divine. Always. Anyways, however, the master being in full conscious control of the rapidity of his own electrons can slow them down at a point to where the master presence may be visible and tangible to physical sight, if at any time the necessity should arise for the investment of such a concentration of energy. In every sphere, these electrons have cooperated with your individualized I am presence in the building of your various bodies. And we have these different layers. And we have like a subtle body, we have an energetic body, we have an astral body, we have a physical body, we have a mental body, an emotional body. And because we have all these different aspects and levels to us, we're multi-dimensional beings. And we have different layers of ourselves. We have different ages and different things that we went through, and it's the sum of all of our parts. So in every sphere, these electrons have cooperated with your individual presence in the building of your various bodies, from the electronic body or electric body down to your physical vehicle. Pure electronic light responded to the pull of the immortal threefold flame of in your heart and fashioned for you each one of the various vehicles through which you find expression. The electronic body, the causal body, the Holy Christ self, the emotional body, the mental, the etheric, and physical form, the electronic light circling around the central core of the millions of atoms which make up your flesh body. Now, what has happened to these perfect vehicles, which were created to allow the life stream, the privilege of cooperation with God? In the upper part of the chart, which we are using for illustration, I don't have it with me, of much magnifying electron, the substance of imperfection or effluvia has been wedged in between the light rays that pour forth from the central core. So it expands. Well, the image that I used for the mandala that I created for this, it is a point and ray of light bursting out, and it's coming in. There's all these beautiful rainbow lights, and it's coming from the threefold flame. So it's like a prism. The light is a prism, and it's like the same kind of thing. The light's coming down in the zenith, and the apex is coming up. You have light coming from you. You have light coming from the core of the earth, and you have light coming from the planets and the sun. And we're anchored to it. So in the upper part of the chart, okay, the substance of imperfection, or the effluvia, has been wedged in between the light rays that pour forth from the central core. So the light is coming out and it's expanding, is what that means. The dark substance looks pie-shaped wedges, and it's like Tico, you're getting all your pieces of light, you're getting your scattered pieces and calling them back. And then the dark energies or impurities are falling and being purified and brought back because of your magnetized energy of your heart. It's your essence, it's your energy, purified, and then it comes back to you automatically. So that's all it's saying. These spaces should be filled only with light substance so that the tiny electrons may be able to spin freely about, which is how your chakras spin, and your energy is free. It's free along your spinal cord. That's where your kundalini rises from your spine, and they ask you to be erect and your breath and stuff. So it connects with the earth's core, and it connects with the sun, and it flows. It flows from your heart, it flows from your chakras, and they all spin. And those are your body, and then your different layers of your emotional body and your different sub-layers, they all have a light string too, and vibrations. And so they freely move about, and they link to your central core, and the dark substance is, transmuted out. So when this dark substance is present, however, it slows down the vibrations of electrons, and that's what, like, you're trying to release trauma and pain and sadness and stress from your body, and through exercise, through breathing practices, through yoga, through qigong, through prayer, through eating healthy, through fasting. There's different ways to clear this out too. How's it done? Used by the absorption of the discordant effluvia of the outside world through individuals' attention upon the acceptance of the discordant films released by the mass of people, whether those feelings be fear, depression, impurity, rebellion, hate, whatever they may be. So as you do this, and as you clear your light body, you're helping others that you may come into contact clear theirs too, because as we clear it and transmute it, we clear and transmute it as we come into contact with other people and discordant energies. And as we do this each day, we clear it out and we heal. So into these wedges is drawn the dark substance, energy qualified too low of a vibration to emit light. What effect this has this on the electrons as they spin around the central core of the atoms? It bogs them down. In other words, it slows down the motion of the electrons. That's why we feel heavy and stuff when we run into someone whose energy isn't moving as freely. It's not their fault. It's the heavy energy. It's not the person, and that this energy needs to be cleared. And whether one of you do it or both of you do it, it clears it up for the both of you if it's truly sincere and action, and calling that into action. And you're calling on higher entities that have the power to do that and to help you. And that's what they're there for. So anyway, the motion of electrons, even as the Earth groans because of the heavy weight of man's discord, which it carries as it turns on its axis, so do the electrons in their endeavor to keep circling around the central core of each atom at their natural speed, carry the weight in which is absorbed by the contagion in your feelings, your mind, your ether body, and your flesh form. So, okay, we are following the sun through space, and it's 70,000 miles per hour, and it's throwing that around centrifugal force. So it is really knocking things loose with gravity and with electromagnetic field, which we all have one. We all have an aura. So if we just have the intention of clearing this out each day, that does wonders for all of humanity. So when you call the powers of the sacred fire, or to any of this and the beings connected with the activity, you would, if you had inner sight, see that violet fire passing through your flesh body and the etheric garment, which it interpenetrates it. So it's like osmosis, a higher concentration going to a lower concentration, and energy flows through. And when you put on the full armor of God or armor of the goddess, it is flowing through you. It is moving through you. Our movement and flow and energy passes. And so that's when we talk about fluids and passes and grades and stuff. It is, you're passing energy, you're flowing energy, you're clearing it, you're passing light through, you're passing magnet through, you're passing energetic currents through, you're onking, you're putting musical energies through, you're doing light energies through, you're doing elemental energies through the entire rainbow body. Okay, there it loosens and throws off into itself for purification the dark substance that is responsible for the slowing down of the vibration of these bodies. This is the action which took place in the body of those who were privileged to sit within the atomic accelerator in Saint Germaine's retreat. Van Tassel had one too. It was like a sound chamber and a healing chamber. You can get the same effects from like the sound bowls and gongs and different things like that. And different sacred sites over the world, these ley lines and stuff, have these energy points as well. And you can go to some of these spots and be clear too. Anyways, the sacred fire of purification renders the same service and makes each one of your four lower bodies lighter. Why? Because as you consciously invoke that violet fire and see it sweep up, and you can feel it too, you can feel it vacuum it out and sweep it out through that and around that dark, heavy substance, it instantly obeys your command, and that effluvia is removed from the force field. The thorns are pulled, it's transmuted, the soot's removed, it's cleared around each electron and transmuted into pure light again through the action of sacred fire. This removal of the discordant substance allows the electrons in your flesh and inner bodies to spin more rapidly, thus making these bodies more sensitive to the presence of the Holy Christ self within the heart. Buoyancy, joy, love, happiness, and light are the practical, natural, and scientific results of the use of sacred fire when you invoke it with faith. If you do not feel these results, it is because you have not consciously accepted the reality of that purifying fire or its ability to restore the natural rhythm of your four lower bodies. Now, those of you that are following my words with understanding should feel a tingling sensation in the extremities of your outer bodies, in your fingers, and even your toes, because while I am speaking to you, we are dislodging tremendous concentrates of the dark, heavy substance from each one of your lower bodies. The substance that I speak of looks something like sooty deposits inside a chimney, and it does, or in a lighthouse, or in a boat over a hurricane lamp. It's black all around it. That is what it looks like. That's what gets lodged around these different light areas and chakras. And you clean that out. And as you clean that out, and some chemical substances will also cause this. Some medications that are being given to people to cloud and to block these receptors. And you can clear those out. You can clear it out by tapping, doing different exercises, running, moving, swaying, tai chi, qigong, yoga. There's all kinds of ways to do it besides just eating healthy. Now, those of you that are feeling, this substance looks like sooty deposits inside a chimney that has not been cleaned for a long time. And we are extracting that heavy substance. And it feels like a vacuum. Michael, the Archangel Michael, that's what he feels like to me. He feels like a magnet or a suction cup coming in and just kind of pulling those things out. There's a couple other ones. Kuan Yin, it's a warm, bubbly transmutation kind of feeling. It's a warmness in my center. It's a different feeling. I can tell when different elementals and different energies and different gods are working with me. They have a different feel. I've been working with them my whole life, so I can just tell you from my own experience. So they are working with me. They're working with you. They're listening to me. As I'm talking about them, I am calling them and I'm asking them to cleanse and clear all our main chakras in our body. I work with 22 main ones. There's 114, and I've activated more than that. I'm just saying those are the ones that I currently am working with. Anyways, as it is removed, you'll feel a great sense of relief and release, especially in your emotional bodies. The one which I'm most concerned, however, I must warn you not to draw that substance back into your various bodies again through the affinity you have for it, and your feelings haven't lived with it so long. So because you've dwelled and you've gotten used to these feelings, what it's talking about is like having an emotional response or going back to those feelings because you're used to them. And that's what it's like warning against. You may feel like something's missing because the heaviness is gone and those emotional energies gone. So don't go around trying to make those reappear just so you can re-experience those feelings. Okay. The feeling bodies of mankind are active 24 hours a day, and being literally catapulted into the atmosphere form blankets of misqualified energy, which is looking for a home and for some life to sustain it. It is vampire in nature and activity because it can live only on the thought and feeling vibration of some life stream who's willing to give it a home and entertain it. So these energies or whatever need a home, and that's where servitors and the aspect of jinn and things, you can give these things a home. You can work with them. You can work with your protectors and guardians and breathe that energy up. And every creature and entity, this is where I'm going to put my 2 cents in. They have a purpose, and I don't really banish anything. A lot of times these spirits, they don't know that they've passed on, and they're entangled in a cycle, and a lot of times you can work with them and give them another home, or ask them to protect you and love you and be around you and work with you, or either go back to the light. So those are my personal feelings on it. Anyways, your feeling body was provided for you. Is your body, is your vessel, is your life source, and no one else has permission to be inside your body except for your higher self, your soul, and your aspects of yourself, and those that you invite into your space, like your partner and your children and things like that. So we are connected to each other, but no one has a right to invade your personal space or your boundaries. And so your feeling body was provided for you for one purpose alone, to radiate, magnify, and expand some of this particular virtue of the Godhead, and for no other reason. So you are God, living as God, walking as God, and all of the people that you meet are also living God, walking around, and they deserve respect and love too. That doesn't mean that because you are a servant of God and that these beings are allowed to hurt you or to take from you or feed off of you in a parasitic way, instead of a symbiotic fashion of transmutation and love. So with that being said, that's my feelings on that. And I'm going to end with this. You who with such pride have held to the purity of your physical bodies might well think of how loosely you have governed your higher inner vehicles through the ages. Those inner vehicles are as much a part of the temple of the Most High, living God, as is the flesh body, and more so, because at so-called death, the substance that composes your physical body goes back to the various elements to which it belongs, while your mental, emotional, and etheric bodies are the garments that your soul wears when you stand before the karmic Lord. And the records written therein will compromise your book of life, not in the flesh. So let not your heart be heavy, and let not your heart be one of stone, but let it be one of flesh and blood. Okay? And that is your inner fire and your sacred fire and heart. It comes from your inner fire, your inner Godhead, and your inner being. And everybody has their own individual path in person and persona. And we don't need to destroy one's personal persona or abuse them. We are all children of God. Okay? So that is my discourse on Saint Germaine and the 7 rays. And I've been working with this most of my life too. So the violet transmuting flame, the purple flame of Saint Germaine, the violet light decree. I use it as a transmuting healing tool. It cleans chakras, it cleans space. It's helping that one is hurt and the impurities are purified and energies, scattered energies are purified and sent back to who they belong to. Thank you very much.